All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. This is State of the Nation, a special edition because the BBI ruling is also expected this morning from around 9 a.m. We'll bring that live to you. The proceedings there, the 7-judge bench is supposed to make a decision on whether reggae is going on or reggae is stopped. The 7 fundamental issues that they're going to talk about. We'll find out what are possible options, possible repercussions, and as well what that means, considering they're only about 130 days to the polls. Let me introduce my guest real quick, beginning from my left. Dr. Kimani Wamatangi, Senator for Kiambu, is here with us. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you, Trevor.
Dr. Alfred Mutua, Governor for Machakos, is also here with us. Asante sana for making time. On my right, Professor Tom Ojienda, Senior Counsel and also Kisumu Senate aspirant, is here with us. Asante sana for making time. And Elias Mutuma, Advocate of the High Court, is also here with us. Thank you so much for making time. Let's start off like we always do with the dailies and then get into the stories of the day before we talk about the BBI, but also the Standard has a lot around the BBI. Let's start off with the Daily Nation. Raila's aid our secret deal with Ruto to oust Uhuru. The uppercut, they're saying. There's a whole elaborate detail there. But the quote from Junet Mohammed on why ODM rejected the offer: we did not commit to the plan immediately, but retreated to interrogate the proposal first. The overriding thinking was that we were just smarting from a grueling election, and this was not in our best interest. And Mr. Odinga felt that that route was a sure way of taking the country back to the drain again. William Ruto, in a TV interview in April 2019, said Raila approached me on 4 occasions after the election to have a discussion, but I declined to engage with him for 2 reasons. 1, in Jubilee, we have our one central command, which is President Uhuru Kenyatta. And 2, I didn't believe that he was doing this in good faith. Mutu, I'll start with you on this. This issue of trying to impeach the president. What do you make of this entire discussion? The president has not exactly been caught on record saying it, but he was allegedly said it in State House when he met the Agikuyu elders, and there's been a lot of reaction everywhere.
I think from where I sit and from what I know is that things were not right after the handshake. You see, let me give a bit of history here. The election and the partnership of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And before I do that, let me just say jumbo to our listeners and our viewers from all over the world and say it's good that we're here this morning discussing matters of national importance that will also have an impact on our day-to-day lives and how much money we have in our pockets, and welcoming the rest of the panelists. You see, the marriage, the political marriage between President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto was one of convenience, arising from the ICC charges and arising from a continuation of what was then the Kibaki era that we had all worked for. And so when the government was formed, we could clearly see a split immediately. And I remember holding conversations with President Uhuru Kenyatta even before the 2017 elections. And he was basically fed up. He was fed up that this unity was not there, because he got into this government to carry out initiatives, to carry out the legacy of President Mwai Kibaki, but yet he felt, according to our conversation, that his deputy was not actually focused on that. He was focused on other things. And I believe he had gone back to the Moi era, those eras of plunder and misorganization and nepotism and some of those things. And the president was fed up. Now, come 2017, they say, okay, let's join hands and finish our term. They come together. And then the country now goes into a lot of problems. Raila Odinga goes and swears himself in. Some of the partners who are supposed to be there with him hide with the tails between their legs, wakaogopa. Hakuenda hapo lakini akajitoa. The country was fractured. There was a lot of tension. Then the handshake happens. The country calms down. Then it's around that time that I started hearing from my members of parliament, because Mandilo Chap has 4 members of parliament, about being called into William Ruto's circles and to be galvanized to work against the president. And it began with, let us vote against the bills pushed by Jubilee and by the president. And it is also within that scenario that I was in certain meetings that I think the president started wooing Wiper Party to come in. Why? Because he wanted confidence in numbers. The reason Wiper Party was brought in is because we had those to make sure that the president said had enough numbers, first of all, to pass bills and get the government agenda going, but I also believe to stop any mischief coming from Ruto's side.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised when I hear that there was a plot to impeach the president. I'm not personally aware of a plot to impeach the president. But I know clearly, in talking to the president, that he needed to have the Wiper votes on his side, he needed to have the ODM votes on his side, so that there is no mischief of removing him out of office or basically rendering him useless in his work.
Omatangi, did you at any given point hear discussion around this, around impeaching the president?
No, Trevor, thank you. And let me also say good morning to our viewers. It's a good Thursday morning. And let me say, Trevor, that first, to answer your question directly, I didn't hear. I never heard. I was not aware. Other than a few times when you would hear speculation within Parliament, or is it possible, supposing this side wanted to impeach the other, supposing then the so-called Tanga Wing, supposing they mooted and tried to implement a motion of no confidence in the president. Would that be possible? In the rumor mills of Parliament and the cup of tea over talk would happen, that kind of conversation would happen, but to kill time, really. There was nothing substantive then about that conversation. In fact, even further, Trevor, what I would be asking myself is the value of that conversation right now. I mean, why now? Because it's reminisce. It's a conversation about how things might have been. You know, it's a discussion about he said, she said.
Yeah.
I don't think, heading to the election, if you asked me, that anyone who's trying to shoot that kind of conversation into the air for people to consume and spend time on it, really, what value is it going to be adding to either our democracy, the elections that we are about to face, the economic conditions that are facing Kenyans today that we want to deal with as urgent issues and solutions that we require for our cases, our children, having just released KCP exams, when we want to talk about are we going to be able to absorb all our children. I think really, if you asked me, that conversation has no meat, it has no value in our discussion. But for purposes of the record of Parliament, from where I sit, there was never at any one time a conversation or a confirmation of that kind of plot, existence, or even a move to implement that kind of thought. If it had happened, then there are very clear systematic ways of dealing with it. And the first thing that would have happened, even before it became a reality, according to the processes of Parliament, Trevor, is you'd have first known even before it was formally done, because what you're required to do within parliamentary procedure is to give a notice of motion that you intend to move this kind of motion. At that point, you would have known that somebody is either planning or intending to bring that kind of motion. So I want to agree with many Kenyans who think that conversation has no place at this time.
Okay. Let me bring in Professor Tom Ojienda on this. Prof, and you've been in the party for a while now, even though it's only now that you're becoming an aspirant for Kisumu Senate. What do you make of this banter of the possibility of wanting to impeach the president? Now Raila Odinga's name has been dragged into it through Junet Mohammed. Was there a conversation like this any time that you heard about it?
Trevor, thank you for that question. I must say that just like everyone else, this is something that is new and that has captured every imagination of every reader of the newspapers, and I must say that it is the first time that I'm seeing this and that I'm reading this. Impeachments, though, are not easy. Impeachments are, though provided for by the Constitution, in matters where there is lack of confidence in a system of governance or in the presidency, but are rarely used because you cannot commence an impeachment just like that, because it's an impeachment must follow the due process set out, must be notified to Parliament, and you must ensure that you have a majority to pull through an impeachment. Remember, there would also be the aspect of public participation, the public knowing that they elected a president into office, and in this case, a president and a deputy president. So, speaking just on top of my head, even if an impeachment were to take root over the leadership of any president at any point in time, it would have to involve public participation. It would be a laborious process. It would invite judicial intervention. It is not an easy process, and I can assure you, it would disturb the basis and integrity of governance in this country. It would disturb the foundations of governance in this country. It could lead to chaos. Because remember, an impeachment is a process that would be commenced by Parliament, but the people would have to take part in that process. But I would also say this, that the report seems to allude to the possibility of a wing in government engaging a wing outside government. And from the stories I read today, it flopped because the deputy president then was in the story of Junet Mohammed offering the Right Honorable Raila Odinga half of government, but as a deputy president. It would have, I can tell you, it does not seem to speak to what the electorate perhaps would have wanted, because the electorate voted in the deputy president as deputy president and voted His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta as president. And that would have been a judicial minefield, I can just tell you. I do not think that such processes would have succeeded, because that would be essentially be a coup. Not a coup, it would be a legal coup taking place within Parliament, but which now the law has said, and this is what the court has said, in matters impeachment of governors. That process would have to go from National Assembly to Senate. You know how laborious the process. I don't think such impeachments would succeed unless you had everyone on your side, and unless you had the public on your side.
All right. Mutua, what are your thoughts on this? Is there's political propaganda going on?
Thank you, Trevor, and the viewers. I think we may never get to know whether there was a plot to impeach the president or not. What is clear is that everyone wants to capitalize on it. Of course, to whip emotions from the public and woo them to support them during the coming elections. It is quite a pity that instead of, the biggest contenders in this election talking about real issues that are supposed to then convince the voter to vote for them, they retreat to propaganda and things that really we have no means of justifying. So we may never get to know about it, but I think it's just meant to whip emotions and rally support to them.